Good morning. We are going to come to you today from another historic town, not Ipswich this time. We are exploring some villages in Suffolk. This is historic Bungay. And I am going to be following a tour that was put together by Christopher Reeve. Not Superman fame, no. This is a history tour of Bungay. Why mess with perfection? So Christopher has put together a selection of the most interesting places in Bungay, and I think there are 40 or 50. There's 50, so we're going to go round. Bear with me. I'm going to go through the book as we go, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. I have been to Bungay several times. It is a beautiful town, so it's definitely worth viewing. Come take a stroll with me. So we're off on our travels through Bungay. Just parked up. Coming down through here now to Lower Holland Street. This is St Mary's Street. Lovely array shops. I do love these little villages. They just have so much character in them. We are going to make our way down and go to the marketplace. There's lots of lovely architecture here, points of interest, and having read through Christopher Reeve's book, there will be plenty of opportunities to pick out all of the good stuff. Store bits and bobs. If you need any bits and bobs, that's where to go. I appreciate that I'm walking past buildings that you may feel are interesting. We are now coming past the church, but we will be coming back along here. And visiting all the points of interest. That's a lovely welcome to the village, isn't it? 7 a.m. You can see everyone's setting up for business. The market stall is out. I will definitely be getting some fresh vegetables. So this here is the marketplace, and this is where we're going to start the tour this morning. It's the first marketplace was set up here and always established on Saturdays, and that was set up by the Bigod family. I hope I'm saying Bigod. It's spelt B-I-G-O-D, which to me, I would say by God. So maybe we'll stick with by God. the Earl of Norfolk in the 13th century. And then in 1382, Richard II gave permission to change the market to Thursdays. And we are here and it's Thursday. And this has continued until the present day. So if you put that rule down in 13th century, and here we are on a Thursday, and the market is setting up. So that's really lovely. The covered market cross that you can see in front of you, I'm going to cross because I appreciate that the sun is up and causing some glare. This market cross was provided shelter for traders back in the day. And this is the butter cross. This is the butter cross, and this is the market shelter. The market shelter was destroyed during the Great Fire in 1688, which destroyed and badly damaged most of the buildings in the town. A new building was quickly provided in 1689 so that the essential trade could resume to regenerate the town's economy. It had a lead dome and became known as the Butter Cross. And that's because farmers' wives sold their dairy produce here, butter, milk and cheese, from the wooden benches. A second market cross was built called the Corn Cross, and that was after the fire, and that's where farmers sold their cereal crops on market days. Both the buildings were also connected with crime and punishment. The Corn Cross provided wooden stocks for the retention of miscreants, and the Butter Cross had a small dungeon beneath the dome and a cage at ground level where offenders were held until they could be transferred to Beccles or Norwich jails awaiting trial. So that must have been pretty grim, and that would have been around here. So crime and punishment was dealt with here, and the dungeon was probably the last place to be imprisoned, as it was very small. A normal sized man would be unable to stand upright inside, and it was also pitch dark with little air in it. It would be particularly horrible if several miscreants were shoved in together. Fortunately, they were usually only maintained overnight, although if detained on a Saturday it would have to wait until the Monday before they were transferred. Another cruel punishment was to be clasped in iron wrist manacles, and you can see those are still here very much on the market cross. And people were held at the Butter Cross and publicly flogged with the sinister words, "until bloody." Lovely. Punishments were also very much public and organised on market days. So not only could you come and get your fruit and veg, but you can also watch somebody being publicly flogged. And as we've seen, they are still intact. The very handsome statue of Justice, which I will zoom in on up here. I'll also take a picture when the sun isn't in my face. This wasn't added until the mid-18th century. It was made in London in the lead workshops of Henry Cheer, and it was transferred here by river and erected in 1754. A very expensive purchase at £29, 13 shillings and 8 She stands as a reminder of fair trade, as well as crime and punishment in Georgian times. Now I'm going to cross the road when soon, as I realise that this is a roundabout and there are 4 or 5 exits. So I'm going to spin round and show you this fabulous building. This building is the King's Head. The building dates back to the Tudor period, but it too was damaged by the Great Fire and rebuilt in Georgian style. It was the centre of fashionable social life in the 18th century, when it held assemblies with music, dancing, card parties and luxurious food and wine. It's currently being renovated and refurbished and is expected to open as one of the social centres for the community and accommodation for tourists. Now, I did look this pub up, and it was incredibly busy back in the day. It was the centre of the town, the place to go, and I can see that they've taken down that beautiful sign that would have hung there, and apparently this was purchased by a couple of business people, and I think they may have got in over their head, not realising how much listed buildings cost to renovate. So it sort of came to a halt. They probably ran out of money, which is quite understandable, as you can see. And somebody else has now taken it over and has declared that they will renovate this back to where it should be. It doesn't look to be too much going on. I can see scaffolding has been erected on the side. I just hope that they do get to renovate it and it gets to be opened and we can see it in all its glory. It's quite a wonderful building. Now here, directly across from the King's Head, is the 3 Tons pub. This is another major building on the marketplace. The 3 Tons dates back perhaps to medieval times, as the massive flint and rubble cellars may be contemporary with the building of Bungay Castle. I'm going to come up to see if I can get a better view. I realise it's very low this morning. A coaching inn in the 18th century also served as the first post office. I'm going to cross over to the middle before I get mowed down. And it served as the first post office. Today it no longer offers any accommodation, but it has acquired the title of being the most haunted pub in Suffolk. I'm not going to hang around to see. I have just crossed back over the roundabout. It is very much a town centre, and I am now looking at this little blue building. I had to search it out because it is no longer a pub. This was the Swan or the White Swan, as it was back in the day. And I'll just zoom in on the building. Unfortunately boarded up. The Swan is recorded in a pre-1688 survey of Bungay in the Duke of Norfolk's archives at Arundel Castle. I've been to Arundel Castle. It's a very nice castle, definitely worth a visit. That's in Kent. So if you fancy going out to Kent, I will cross over and see if I can have a look round the back. In the Georgian period, arrested offenders could pay for an overnight room in the inn. Interesting. Instead of being imprisoned in the cage or dungeon, the room had a bed fitted with foot manacles. Now you can see there's probably some work going to have to be done on here. I'm going to walk around the back. And the manacles were to prevent escape, but it said that at least the prisoners had a decent bed for the night. So you can see that that's all blocked in. I'm going to go around the other side because that seems to be open. We might get a better view of the back of the pub. And this little alleyway is Castle Orchard. So let's have a look down this back alley. Yeah, it's very much boarded up. Hopefully somebody will restore it. And so this back area here, we were over there just now, is the back entrance. I'm going to return now to Castle Orchard, the alleyway, and this is the entrance to by God's Bungay Castle. And they do have a lovely little cafe here, which isn't open at the moment, probably keeping castle hours. When I've been here before, been able to sit outside. Now, following the departure of the Romans in the early 5th century, Bungay was gradually populated by invading Saxon tribes. They created defensive earthworks, a wooden fortress surrounded by fences and ditches on the site of the existing castle mound. Now you can see an information board here. So I'll just let you have a look. And you can also see another point of interest here, which is the sign stating that it is an ancient monument. I wonder if there was one of a similar nature placed on St Paul's, as I was listening on the news, on the radio, on the drive-in this morning, that a gym teacher had apparently been caught carving his name into the wall of St Paul's because he didn't realise it was an old building. So a little bit about the Bungay family. Following the Norman conquest in 1066, the Bungay lands were acquired by Roger Bigod in 1103. His son, Earl Hugh Bigod, was belligerent and ambitious, who commenced systematic assaults and capture of crown properties. This is quite magnificent. Unfortunately, and I know it's early in the morning, but unfortunately the castle is closed for visitors at the present time because it does need some work. In 1165, he initiated construction of a defensively strong castle keep. It's a shame we can't go in and see the notice boards there, but I'll try and attach as much information as I can, from which he felt secure against enemy assault. However, in 1173, Henry II marched a massive army to Bungay, forcing Hugh to surrender. All his lands were confiscated and he was exiled to fight in the Crusades in the Middle East. This is actually quite a spectacular view. First thing in the morning, with the church in the background. What a lovely time of day to be out. It's definitely worth getting up early. I'm going to go around this side to see what else I can capture before we move on, as I know we can't go in. It is usually free to the public, but as I say, as works are being done, it's being closed off. Now that castle gatehouse that we just visited, following Hugh Bigod's death, the title of Earl and all family properties were restored to his son Roger on payment of a large fine. And the Bigod family then preferred to settle in Framlingham as their major power base. However, in 1294, a later Roger obtained a royal license to refortify the castle keep, erecting a defensive gatehouse and lofty curtain walls around the site, and he died shortly thereafter. The works were completed. The Bigod family took little interest in Bungay, and the castle was left to decay, as you can see. In 1483, the property in Bungay estates passed into the possession of the Howard family, Dukes of Norfolk. They maintained an interest in the region, but the castle was neglected, and in the 18th century it was acquired by a builder who started knocking down walls to provide rubble for roadworks. I have no words. 7:30. The castle remained a picturesque ruin until 1933. The town reeve, Dr. Leonard Kane, organised extensive excavation and renovation of the structure and the site. What a lovely picture. In 1987, the existing Duke of York gifted the building and the site to the town, and it is now managed and maintained by the Castle Trust. And as we've seen, there are plans for major renovation. Right, this is a lovely green space. We're going to have a wander over here because this is apparently Castle Hills, which are a short distance from the castle. And this was apparently a recreation area connected to the castle and used for sports and archery, etc. And I'm hoping that's not a padlock. I fear it is. Timber walkway leading to Castle Lane and the Castle Hills and the River Waveney. It doesn't open until 10 o'clock, so unfortunately we won't be able to go down into the meadow, but it is here. And as you can see, if I turn around, it isn't very far at all from the castle. And I'll do that again as we move away, just to give you perspective. It literally is 30 seconds. You can see the gate right there. We're going to return the way we came, back through Castle Orchard and onto Ayrsham Street. If you're an antique person, there's some really quaint shops here selling some real unique pieces. Definitely worth having a little wander around the stores. Some beautiful architecture along here. As I'm continuing along Ayrsham Street, which is considered Little Chelsea, I don't know if it's this end that we've just passed or the end that we're coming into, but it all looks quite pleasant to me. I've just noticed across the way Ayrsham House, so it has a plaque outside. I have taken a picture of that, which I'll insert into the film. And as we walk along, you can see how the uses of the buildings have changed across the way here. The London and Provincial Bank Limited, and that has now been changed into residential by the looks of things. And it makes me wonder if they still have the safe. Having watched plenty of George Clark's Renovation Man and restoration programs over the years, because of my fascination of older buildings, I had heard that if you purchase an old bank to live in, you have to keep the safe for something like 10 years. Across the way there, that's the old post office. And that's now residential. That would have been quite small. Lots of lovely cafes and stores. I'm going to cross over again and just show you the Castle Inn. And I see above it says the White Lion. So I'm not sure why they changed their name. It's equally as lovely. And again, lots of really lovely, quaint little stores along here, right next to the Castle Inn. Possibly why the name was changed is an alleyway that leads to God's Castle. And there is a public footpath. And little black dog wardrobe. And there are references to the black dog in the village. And we will come to that. This building, this handsome red brick building here, is the old post office. And that, I believe, was built in 1939. And that was on the site of a grammar school. Handsome building is too. The grammar school was founded in 1565 as a boarding school, and that was for boys. Its curriculum was based on that of Eton, and that's because the headmaster had attended Eton. And in 1925, pupils were transferred to another school which was purpose-built with extensive playing fields on St John's Road. And this is St Mary's House, and it was St Mary's School for Girls and a prep school for boys, and it's now a residential home for the elderly. We're going to continue. We're at a junction of Ampney Road. Lovely little cottages here on the left. We're coming to the end of Ayrsham Street. Ayrsham or Earsham? The locals would, I doubt, correct me. This is Scott House, and this is where Ayrsham Street ends, at the little bridge here over the river. And this was originally the 18th century Cock Inn. I'm just going to go up and go over or stand on the bow of the bridge, should I say, and have a look down. This is beautiful. Look how picturesque this is. And you can just see the castle in the distance, just parts of it, because it all sort of circles around the castle, and that's where we were earlier. Across the road from Scott House, formerly the Cup Inn, which is here, quite a handsome building too. Must be lovely to live in a pub. Right, so I'm going to zoom in on the blue plaque, which I just noticed on the side. And I will take a picture so that you can see it as well. And across the way here is Waveney House. Sir John Barber Scott inherited his father's enormous wealth, which he used to make improvements to the town. He also served as the town reeve. His extensive diaries provide fascinating accounts of Bungay life and his travels in Europe. And he apparently owned all of this. Lovely. We are leaving the end of Ayrsham Street. I'm going to turn left into Outney Road. We are coming down Outney Road to see a row of Tudor style almshouses. Morning. These were funded in 1895 by Frederick Smith, who was a wealthy solicitor, and these cost £2,000. I can see them coming up on the right, so we'll just go off onto the road so that I can walk along and show you them in greater detail. Quite handsome they are. These provided accommodation for 6 single tenants and 2 married couples. They are owned and managed by the Bungay Town Trust. Smith lived in Ayrsham Street House, which is now partly occupied by the Town Council offices and council flats. What a lovely place to live. Very much in keeping with those we saw in Ipswich. I mean, these are by no means anything to be sniffed at. Just going to zoom in on the sign so you can see. 1895, St Edmund's Homes. And another sign that says remodelled by the Trust, opened in June 2014 by Lord Tolmarch, Lord Lieutenant of Suffolk. There's that name again, that Tolmarch name. And improvements and extensions carried out by the Town Trust in 1974. As always, as I say, look at the detail in the chimneys. Absolutely gorgeous. And this is a lovely area actually. It's quite quiet and peaceful around here. Just going to check our guide to see where we're going next. At the end of this road there was formerly a railway station that was built in 1860 when the Harleston to Bungay section of the Waveney Valley line was completed, and in 1863 extended to Beccles and beyond. I am just noticing, and don't want to ignore, these absolutely fabulous Victorian villas. These are quite handsome Waveney terraces built in 1881. Look at how wonderful these are. The detail is just magnificent. More than anything builders do today. So this is possibly where the railway station is. It says it stood close to the golf clubhouse and provided a busy passenger and goods services, but closed in 1953. So it's been gone for quite a while. So possibly down here, down the footpath, and then you'd see the golf course. And you can hear we're getting close to the bypass. So if we go across the bridge, let's have a look. I'm not seeing any signs for a bridge, but it sounds very bypassy, so it could possibly be the bridge here. This would have opened out onto common land. This is the site of Clay's printing works. I'm just going to be cheeky and sneak down here just a little bit just to see what I can see. Seems to be all car park at the moment. Yes, it looks like it could be an overflow from the park. We're going to look for Clay's printing works. which is along Hobson Street. So I have a feeling that this is possibly part of it because of the building. Yes, it is. And as you can see down the alleyway there and back over, this business was founded by John Brightly in 1795, later joined by John Childs, who increased its prosperity by printing popular editions of classic titles and family Bibles at affordable prices. We'll see if we can see Hobson Street. In 1876, the factory was purchased by the London firm of Clays, which it's still called today, and it continues to be the town's major industry and one of the largest book producers in the world. I'm just noticing on the end of these terraces there is a sign that's worth looking at on Outney Road, and it's a nod to A.W. Cox, Town Reeve in the Peace Year. That's why you have to look up when you're walking. You miss so much detail. I'm just loving the detail on these terraces. They're absolutely fabulous. Now you can see Clays behind the almshouses there. This could be Hobson Street on the left, coming up. No, Webster Street. It's a massive printing works, you can see. Takes over quite an area in the town, so you can see why it's one of the largest employers here. Scale Street. Certainly a lovely walk, can't fault it. Beautiful village, very picturesque. Definitely something to add to your list of places to go, especially if you live in Suffolk, want a day out. As you can see, there's plenty of places to eat and drink, lovely stores to visit, and of course we have the castle. Certainly won't be a boring day out, that's for sure. We have now returned to Ayrsham Street. We're now going to make our way to Broad Street. which is going to be just off of Chaucer Street, which is up here on the left. As we approach Chaucer Street, there's that old post office again. And back on Chaucer Street. We're going to pop down Chaucer Street to Scales. I think we should have taken a left turn at Scales, but I was so busy filming I wandered right past it. That's okay because we get to see more of this gorgeous little town. And you can see on the side here some Masonic rooms. It's another very detailed building. Forester's Court. This is Popson Street, and this is Chaucer Institute. And we have now come across what looks like the front entrance and reception to plays. And hoping that this ahead of us is Broad Street. Broad Street, so named because it was much wider than any of the other streets in the town, and this needed to accommodate the cattle that came down the street. This here was where John Childs lived. And this is called Cambridge House. I'm just going to step out into the road, into the parking space, so that you can actually see the detail. And we'll continue on. There's certainly no shortage of places to eat and drink in Bungay. We are going to continue down. You can see the theatre just ahead of us, but there is lots of traffic. I just want to cross over and show you this building, which we can see from a distance. This is an off-licence, or was an off-licence at the time that Christopher wrote this book. It's at the top of Brandy Lane, number 18. I think it is probably no longer an off-licence. There's lots of the shelves seem to be empty. That survived the Great Fire and has sold liquor since the 18th century, unfortunately no more. And it probably benefited from lots of smuggling in the town. There's some really handsome buildings which I will turn and show you so that you can see outside of the sun. This is a fabulous building, home to the solicitors, and also another building, number 12, with some great detail above the door. We'll have to find out what this building is. Along here is the building we've come to see. Which is the Fisher Theatre, and the plaque says Fisher Theatre 1828 to 1844 by the Bungay Society. I'm going to cross over so you can see it better. Still open as a theatre, quite a good looking building. So this is the Fisher Theatre, the first theatre to be built in the Waveney Valley. Was built in Castle Yard in 1773. David Fisher, a Norwich actor, became manager in 1808 and organised a company of players that performed in venues throughout Norfolk and Suffolk. He established purpose-built theatres in the main towns, and now the new Bungay venue opened in 1828, attracting large audiences. It did apparently close in 1844, becoming the Corn Exchange, and later a factory, and in 2006 was renovated, reopening as a theatre and a centre for community activities. So it's good to see it back for its original purpose. And I see next to the theatre there is this cute looking wall and gate, and on the side it says the Armoury. I need to find out what these buildings are. Now along here is cork bricks. And this was so called because apparently they laid cork bricks down here where these bricks are situated to deafen the sound, because it was apparently so loud when the carts were dragged through here or horses were dragged through here. This is the Bungay Town Council office, and it also houses the museum. And this building actually isn't unlike ancient house with its detail out the front. It's going to cross over so I can give you a better view of the building. Lots of detail on the front, which I'm going to zoom in and show you. And also has a beam in there churches. We're making our way back down again to the town cross, and we are on the lookout for the black dog weather vane. Aha, I spy the black dog weather vane, which I'm just going to into. The black dog appears quite a bit in the town. This is formerly the site of the corn cross, which became disused in 1812 and was replaced by the town pump, providing water for communal use. So let's go back out and show you where it's situated. The piped water system was installed throughout the town in 1923. So the pump was demolished and replaced in 1933 with the standard surmounted by a weather vane depicting the legendary phantom black dog of Bungay. And as you can see, we're right back at the 3 Tons. I'm going to cross over when safe to do so. Just have a look at that little monument in the middle here, just to see what it says. If it's readable. Oh, okay, so no, not very readable. Built in 1933 on the site of the old town pump. Erected in 1812 by Matthias Harrison and Town Reeve. Okay, Town Reeve. So we have seen that around. So lots of detail. And lovely to see the bunting out as well. This is Reitman's drapery store, and this has been in business since 1861. We're going to continue along Trinity Street. We're going to make our way to St Mary's churchyard, where it has the remains of the medieval Benedictine priory. Some more cute places. Oh, a wine company. How nice. Some more industrial buildings on the right. Now, this priory was completed in 1183 for a community of nuns who performed charitable works and provided a hospice and education. They established their own church, finally completed the building of the lofty tower in 1473. The priory closed in 1536 during the Reformation, and the church was converted for parish use. this building here the large red brick building that you can see was originally the post office. And this was built in 1939 on the site of the former grammar school. And this lovely little shopping area that we walked along on the way into Bungay has been nicknamed Little Chelsea. I'm going to give another view. The grammar school that was here was founded in 1565. It was a boarding school for boys, and its curriculum was based on that of Eton, where the first headmaster was educated. In 1925, pupils were transferred to a much larger purpose-built school with extensive playing fields in St John's Road. And further along on the corner was St Mary's School for Girls and Prep School for Girls, which is now a residential home for the elderly. So you can see how quaint it is along here. As we approach Chaucer Street, there's that old post office again. And back on Chaucer Street. We're going to pop down Chaucer Street to Scales. I think we should have taken a left turn at Scales, but I was so busy filming I wandered right past it. But that's okay, because we get to see more of this gorgeous little town. And you can see on the side here the Masonic rooms. It's another very detailed building. Forester's Court. This is Popson Street, and this is Chaucer Institute. And we have now come across, which looks like the front entrance and reception to Clay's. And hoping that this ahead of us is Broad Street. Broad Street, so named because it was much wider than any of the other streets in the town, and this needed to accommodate the cattle that came down the street. This here was where John Childs lived, and this is called Cambridge House. I'm just going to step out into the road, into the parking space, so that you can actually see the detail. And we'll continue on. There's certainly no shortage of places to eat and drink in Bungay. We are going to continue down. You can see the theatre just ahead of us, but there is lots of traffic. I just want to cross over and show you this building, which we can see from a distance. This is an off-licence, or was an off-licence at the time that Christopher wrote this book. It's at the top of Brandy Lane. Number 18. I think it is probably no longer an off-licence, as lots of the shelves seem to be empty. That survived the Great Fire and has sold liquor since the 18th century, unfortunately no more. And it probably benefited from lots of smuggling in the town. There's some really handsome buildings which I will turn and show you so that you can see outside of the sun. This is a fabulous building, home to the solicitors, and also another building, number 12, with some great detail above the door. I'll have to find out what this building is. Along here is the building we've come to see. Which is the Fisher Theatre, and the plaque says Fisher Theatre 1828 to 1844 by the Bungay Society. I'm going to cross over so you can see it better. Still open as a theatre, quite a good looking building. So this is the Fisher Theatre, the first theatre to be built in the Waveney Valley. Was built in Castle Yard in 1773. David Fisher, a Norwich actor, became manager in 1808 and organised a company of players that performed in venues throughout Norfolk and Suffolk. He established purpose-built theatres in the main towns, and now the new Bungay venue opened in 1828, attracting large audiences. It did apparently close in 1844, becoming the Corn Exchange, and later a factory, and in 2006 was renovated, reopening as a theatre and a centre for community activities. So it's good to see it back for its original purpose. And I see next to the theatre there is this cute looking wall and gate, and on the side it says the Armoury. I need to find out what these buildings are. Now along here is cork bricks. And this was so called because apparently they laid cork bricks down here where these bricks are situated to deafen the sound, because it was apparently so loud when the carts were dragged through here, or horses were dragged through here. This is the Bungay Town Council office, and it also houses the museum. And this building actually isn't unlike ancient house with its detail out front. To cross over so I can give you a better view of the building. Lots of detail on the front, which I'm going to zoom in and show you. And it also has a beam in there, which is lovely. I have just looked it up, and it was Frederick Smith's wife who fell ill and was unable to sleep and recuperate because of the noise. And one of these cork bricks has actually been found, and it is housed in the museum. So if you'd like to see it, it's also a really good place to pop in when it's open. We're making our way back down again to the town cross, and we are on the lookout for the black dog weather vane. Aha, I spy the black dog weather vane, which I'm just going to into. The black dog appears quite a bit in the town. This is formerly the site of the corn cross, which became disused in 1812 and was replaced by the town pump, providing water for communal use. So let's go back out and show you where it's situated. The piped water system was installed throughout the town in 1923. So the pump was demolished and replaced in 1933 with the standard surmounted by a weather vane depicting the legendary phantom black dog of Bungay. And as you can see, we're right back at the 3 Tons. I'm going to cross over when safe to do so and have a look at that little monument in the middle here, just to see what it says, if it's readable. Okay, so no, not very readable. Built in 1933 on the site of the old town pump. Erected in 1812 by Matthias Kerrison Reeve. Okay, Town Reeve. So we have seen that around. So lots of detail. And lovely to see the bunting out as well. This is Reitman's drapery store, and this has been in business since 1861. We're going to continue along Trinity Street. We are going to make our way to St Mary's Churchyard, where it has the remains of the medieval Benedictine priory. Some more cute places. Oh, a wine company. Oh, nice. Some more industrial buildings on the right. Now, this priory was completed in 1183 for a community of nuns who performed charitable works and provided a hospice and education. They established their own church, finally completed the building of the lofty tower in 1473. The priory closed in 1536 during the Reformation, and the church was converted for parish use. I've just crossed over the road so I can come back and show you these medieval remains. Try not to get knocked down by the ambulance. Quite spectacular. Lovely little find in the middle of a hustling, bustling town. How nice is this? We'll continue back onto Trinity Road. "8:45. I've been wandering a while. Let's wait for traffic. Time in the morning, it's quite busy. We're going to make our way along Trinity Street to Holy Trinity Church. Another beautiful church. The round tower, as we approach, is 11th century and the oldest building in the town. It escaped serious damage during the Great Fire, and inside there is a memorial to John Barber Scott, who funded improvements in the building in the Victorian period. Now, I don't know how much of it you can see. Try and go up without the sun blocking it out, but we will go round. St Mary's, this church can start again. This church coexisted as a parish church with St Mary's until 1977, when it decided to close the latter due to dwindling congregations. Trinity now continues as the chief centre of Anglican worship. I don't know if the church gates will be open. It'd be great if they are, and we can have a little wander around. And you can see Holy Trinity Church of Bungay. Ooh, gates are open, lovely. We can have a little wander. This is quite a beautiful church. Look at that. What a fabulous way to start your day, and it's only 9:15 in the morning and the church is open. How lovely. This is quite a lovely building. I'm going to wander around the back. I'm not going to go inside the church and videotape because I'm old school and I think it's a sign of respect not to film in the church. I'll only take photos if it says it's allowed. And this is the other side of Holy Trinity. How lovely is this? I feel so spoilt in the middle of the week. Cute little window. We are going to retrace our steps now back along Trinity Street, and there are apparently some steep steps on the right hand side that lead down to the ancient borough well. It says that tradition is that the well has been in use since Roman times, and fragments of Roman pottery were found in it during the renovations in 1976. It is fed by a natural spring, a major source of water for the town centre residents, until 1923 when the pumped water supply was provided. So we have to keep our eyes peeled now for this steep stairway, which is apparently on the right hand side, and hope that we don't go past it, although given health and safety rules nowadays it may just be gated off, but we'll take a look. I don't know if I should be going in here. I don't know if it's in here. Well, this is private. This looks like it could be private property. There are no signs that I'm seeing that point out the well. And it doesn't give us an exact location. I seem to have located it. Burrowell Lane. So let's investigate. it is locked, much as I expected it to be. So we have a plaque. This well supplied water to the town from Roman times until 1923. The surviving Tudor construction was restored in 1985 by the Bungay Society. And there is a plaque on the wall which I will take a photograph of and put up with the video so that you can take longer to read it. This, sneaking my camera through, is the borough well, and you can see the sort of tunnelled area to the right hand side. It's a shame you can't go down and see it, but so be it. I expected it to be a health and safety issue. We're just going to take a little trot down this alleyway. I can see some work going on ahead, so I'm not going to film there. And we're going to come out onto Bridge Street. This is Bridge Street. It was very lively back in the day with lots of shops. Seems a lot quieter now. We're coming along here to see the Checkers Inn ahead of us. This is the Checkers Inn. In the Victorian times, there were 5 inns and pubs in the street, and this is the only one that appears to have survived. Well, I think they've got plenty of pubs in the street, in this town. To have 5 in this little street, that's quite a bit. This provisionally closed, but now appears to be open again. At least I can see open windows. Its deeds date back to the early 17th century. So, lots of rich history. I'm just going to wander down the street. I do love to see all of these colourful cottages. Towards the end of the street, there's apparently an adjacent wharf yard. And that's where the King's Arms was apparently standing. And that provided ale, food and accommodation for the navigation trade. And that closed in 1910. So I'll continue down. Look at this cute little alleyway. So picturesque here. It really is. That's Bridge Cottage. And I'm just seeing I'm going to cross over as I can see that there is only the one walkway. And I don't want to walk in the cycle path. This is lovely. Right over the river. Look at this, how peaceful is this? Right out onto the meadow. Very nice. assuming this was the King's Head, given the signage that has been taken down that would have once displayed the pub. And I've just noticed, having come on this side of the road, that this actually says Ditchingham Dam. Ditchingham Dam. I'm going to cross over. It would have been nice to get a view from the other side. Now, there's a quite interesting sign there. Chicken roundabout. In the 1950s, the local people remember seeing chickens pecking in the verges around the old Ditchingham maltings. It's thought they had strayed from an allotment or garden nearby. Interesting. So I will take a photograph of this so that you can see it. I'm just going back to this meadow. This meadow over here is Falcon Meadow, and beautiful it is too. And while we take in some of this view, I'll just tell you a little about the wealth and prosperity of Bungay. Bungay's wealth and prosperity developed from its extensive river trade from medieval times, when the Waveney was navigable to Beccles, Lowestoft, Yarmouth and beyond. Matthias Kerrison, who owned the Straith Navigation from 1783, and if you recall, his name was on that water pump. He became a millionaire, carrying on an extensive trade in timber, coals and corn during the Napoleonic Wars. From 1889, William Walter owned the navigation, maltings and corn mills, and conducted a fleet of wherries transporting goods to neighbouring towns. Although the river flow had been improved in 1670 by a system of locks at Geldeston, Shipmeadow, Ellingham and Wainford, it still had a tendency to silt up, and this increased in the 20th century. And by the 1930s, the Waveney at Bungay ceased to be navigable except for rowing boats and canoes, causing a drastic decline in the town's economy. And as much is the case. And we are greeted this morning by a swan. How lovely is that? We're going to make our way back up Bridge Street to Trinity Street again, and we're going to look at some different almshouses that were put in place. And these sit on Straith Road. This is a view going back up the road we just came down. But you see things differently when you look back, or at least when you look up you see a lot of detail as well. This house needs a trim. And if you recall, this is the Chequers, which we just filmed. And the pub with the scaffolding, or the house with the scaffolding, should I say. crossing Nethergate Street, an industrial building down there which could be part of the maltings. And ahead of us is that black dog weather vane we saw earlier. I had to retrace my steps through the way this book is set out, so I didn't want to waste that time showing you everything you've already seen. These are Eliza Dreyer almshouses. And these are flint facades on these almshouses and cobbled pavements. They were funded by Eliza Dreyer in 1848, who inherited a large fortune from her mother, the best-selling Georgian novelist Elizabeth Bonhot. I'm going to turn around so you can see these again. I think I'll cross over so I can take a much better view. And you can see them in their entirety. There's only a few, but they are very picturesque. We're going to make our way back up now to the town centre. While I'm walking, I'm just going to tell you about the black dog. On August 4th, 1577, a terrifying thunderstorm occurred while the parishioners were assembled in a church of worship. As thunder roared and lightning flashed, it seemed to the terrified onlookers that a black dog, or the devil, in such a likeness, appeared in their midst. And this dog was attacking and injuring many. The parish registers mention the 2 men were killed and the tower clock was severely damaged. This world famous legend attracts numerous visitors to the church, and related images can be seen around the town. We're going to make our way up to the church, and that will be our end point for our walk today. You can see the church there in the distance. As we make our way up to the church, I'm going to tell you about another building that survived the Great Fire, and that's the Fleece, which is another pub which I'll point out that sits opposite St Mary's Church. The Fleece was originally the 15th century guild hall, but it has been known as the Fleece Inn, providing ale, food and accommodation. The interior, which sits well below street level, has an inglenook fireplace, carved oak beams and original features, and in recent years it ceased providing accommodation. Now functions as a restaurant and wine bar. I have had lunch in the Fleece and I can attest that it was very nice, and that's coming up here on the left, and I'll point that out. We are coming past the Catholic Church of St Edmund the Martyr, so I'll just give you a quick view of this. That sits behind a high wall and these gates, and the gates are open, so we'll just have a little peek inside. It is quite a detailed church actually. No shortage of churches and pubs in Bungay, that's for sure. Come out the other side and continue on down. As you can see, St Mary's standing proudly there. We're going to go into the churchyard and have a look. Churchyard is a little overgrown. And this is the Fleece Inn. Once the guild hall. And you can see why, it's such a beautiful building. We are turning into St Mary's. It's quite a long walk today. I'm going to have to do quite a bit of editing. We're going to be watching a full-length feature film. This is one of the finest medieval churches in the region, with its grateful lofty tower that you can see here, incorporating crowned MS for Saint Mary. The architecture dates mainly from the 15th century, and the upper part of the tower was rebuilt during the fire damage. And as we go around the back, you'll see there in the distance the priory remains that we visited earlier. The west wall features a magnificent window brightly illuminating the interior, which has few decorative features due to its restorations carried out during the Reformation and Victorian periods. The building is cared for by the church's Conservation Trust. So let's have a look around the back. You can see much of the stained glass. There's no more. Beautiful flint works there. And this must be the magnificent west wall window because it has been caged, and that's possibly to stop vandalism. I don't know how much detail we can see from there. I'll see if I can go inside if it's open and ask if I can take a picture of the window. We'll just go around. Very handsome church building. It says open, but the doors are closed. Now, one last little tidbit of information before we end our walk here today. This is the Druid Stone. It's a round border situated amongst all the gravestones. This is a glacial erratic, and it was carried here by floodwater during the Ice Age. Known as the Druid's Stone, it's believed it was worshipped by tribes during the Iron Age, vesting it with magic powers. If struck with a flint, the god inhabiting it would create sparks for the gift of fire, essential for warmth, light, and providing cooked food. Well, there you have it. I'm just going to give you one more look at this fabulous church and say we are ending our walk here today in the beautiful town of Bungay. I want to thank you for joining me on this historic walk of one of our beautiful historic towns, and I hope to see you again on the next tour, possibly in Ipswich, possibly in another beautiful Suffolk village. Thank you for joining me. See you again soon. That concludes our tour this morning. I certainly hope you found it interesting. Lots of really cool places to see, lots of history. It's lovely to see what goes on in our beautiful English villages, isn't it? If you really enjoyed that, please leave me a like. If you want to see more of the videos, subscribe, hit the bell. I've told if you hit the bell you get an alarm or you get a notification as soon as a video is published. So look forward to seeing you again and having you joining me on another walk.